Welcome to the Around the World in 80 Pages book tag. I've been booktubing, YouTubing for almost a year now, reviewing classic science fiction and great literature. I've been doing book tags, book hauls, TBR lists, top 10. I'm working on a top 150 science fiction reads video, and I've really enjoyed doing tags and watching tags, and I really like finding out more about other booktubers. And this is a tag I specifically put together because these are questions that I think I'd really like to know about the people that I am tagging in this video, and I think it would be a fun tag for others to do because it travels all around the world and it really dives into the type of reading that we do and maybe the type of reading that we don't do a whole lot of. So let's go ahead and do the Around the World in 80 Pages book tag. Around the World Destination 1. Your favorite book set in or has reference to Eastern Europe or Asia. I have arrived at two titles. First is going to be The Orphan Master's Son, which is set in North Korea, written by Adam Johnson. This is an award-winning novel. It's a great novel. I really enjoyed this, and it's a non-science fiction novel, which is a little bit unusual for me because my channel is all about science fiction. I loved this novel. It gave me great insights into North Korea. It's an area that we do not know a lot about, but it feels like Adam Johnson really brought legitimacy in telling us about what life might be like there. And the story talks a lot about, the life of propaganda and living under that propaganda in North Korea. It's a book that inspired me to research a lot about North Korea after reading the book, and I understand that North Korean scholars really have a lot of respect for what Adam Johnson has put into this book. The other one on this list for me is going to be Neuromancer by William Gibson. This is one of my favorite sci-fi cyberpunk novels. It's the original cyberpunk novel, and we follow Case, who is a hacker, a kind of a down-on-his-luck guy, and very imperfect protagonist, a drug addict. He is recruited by this guy Armitage, who's a former military person, and he's working with Molly, and she's the muscle, and she's a very interesting character. And this is all really put together by Wintermute, who is an AI, and I'm not going to spoil it any further from there, but there are references to Japan in this novel, so we're going to start out over here in the Far East, and we're going to start out in Japan. Next stop, name a YouTuber or YouTubers from a country other than your own. My primary stop here is going to be India, and the channel is called Fandom Newbie, and I really like this channel. I've been watching it a lot lately. It's not so much science fiction, but I do watch a lot of genres other than science fiction, probably more genres that are not science fiction. I really enjoy that on YouTube and exposing myself to a lot of different types of genres in BookTube. And this channel is really great, and she does really interesting things. One example that's coming to mind right now is that she did this video where she sorted Bollywood characters into Hogwarts houses. I'm going to put that up right here. Take a look at that video, and you'll get it. Just in that one video, you're going to get a big idea about how enjoyable this channel is for Fandom Newbie. I'm also going to take a stop over in the UK and mention Dane Reads. I discovered Dane because he does a lot of Asimov content, and I am there for that. I'm going to talk about Jack Edwards because that's a channel that I watch a lot of. This is a giant YouTuber, and you know what? In this destination, booktuber from another place, consider yourselves tagged if I'm mentioning you in any of these answers, and I think anybody you mention in these answers as well, you can consider them to be tagged also. So I'm going to tag Jack Edwards, right? I don't know if he even does tags anymore, but he puts out really interesting things. There was one where I wrote a note on this, decorative aesthetic books, read and reviewed. That was a really cool one. It was just a pile of green books that were meant for decoration, and each one of them was a different and unique book, and some were interesting and some were not, and he read and reviewed all of them. And it's absolutely hilarious. The confidence in which he presents himself on video, the presentation is excellent. I really enjoyed that channel, and I'm going to recommend that channel as well. Jack Edwards, let's put it in the space right here. Pretty X Bookish in South Africa. I don't think she's posted in a little while because I haven't seen any new content, but that could just be my subscription feed being wonky, I don't know. But this is a booktuber who has like just a really radiant personality, is very positive, really sunny personality, really funny. So check out her channel as well. And finally, being here in the US, I have to mention my neighbor to the north, Rachel from Shades of Orange. This is one of my favorite channels to watch, and I only discovered this channel a couple months ago, but Rachel is somebody who I talk to almost every day now about books and things like that. She currently is doing a October read of Something Wicked This Way Comes, which is just such a beautiful book, and we're having so much fun, and I'm loving talking to her and the other people on her Discord about this, but she's just a really wonderful person. She has great reviews on her channel. She reviews science fiction, and she reviews horror, probably more horror than science fiction, but it's hard for me to say that there's any channel that I look more forward to watching reviews from than from Shades of Orange. If you watch the channel, you're going to see what I mean. You're going to subscribe, and you're going to really like this channel, just like you will with the other channels that I mentioned. Jaunting over to our 80 pages reference, name a book that you DNF'd, did not finish, prior to the 80-page point. A book you stopped reading before you got to page 80. And why? I don't have a good answer for why, but the book that I DNF'd before page 80 was The Art of Fielding. This is sort of a coming-of-age story. It's a fellow who is coming out. He's a baseball player. Things going on in his life affect his baseball play at the worst time, because I think he's, if I remember this correctly, this has been a few years now, I think he's trying to get recruited to play professional baseball or maybe a college scholarship, but he's basically being watched by scouts, and that's when he starts to like kind of cramp up and not be the amazing superstar player that he was. I think it maybe had something to do with his coming out story at the same time. Usually this is a kind of book that, even though it's not science fiction, if it comes across my path, it's something I'll read, and I'll probably get into it really quickly because it's easy to digest. And there's not a lot of really, I'm not very aware of what gay fiction is out there, and I like it. And you know, before I came out, I read a lot of gay fiction because somebody sent it to me, and it was just like great. I just like devoured it. So it's kind of unusual that I didn't follow up on that. I think when I was reading it, I wasn't, maybe, I don't want to say I was in a reading slump, because I just wasn't reading that much at that time. Let's head back to the airport and continue our journey. Name a book that you picked up at the airport. And it doesn't have to be the airport, it could be the train station or whatever. Somewhere where you picked up a book that you had to settle for because you didn't want to be empty-handed, and you were pleasantly surprised by it. This is one I'm happy to talk about because I'm going to pick Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, and I'm happy to talk about it because I want to say something positive, because I often feel like I'm not always having positive reactions when I see it mentioned, and I'm going to explain it. I see people mention this a lot when people are on Facebook are asking for science fiction recommendations for first-time readers, and that is a good recommendation for that, but it's also like, I see people mentioning this as their favorite science fiction of all time, and I'm being a little gatekeeper when I say, no, it's not the best science fiction of all time. It's good, great, love what you love to read, that's awesome. This was a good read for me. I was, the family, my husband's from El Salvador, so we go to El Salvador every summer, and the kids stay down there most of the summer. He stays down there most of the summer, and I was going down for 2 weeks and didn't have anything, so I saw this in the airport, and it was one of the only science fiction things. I didn't know what to expect. I picked it up, I read it. I read it in like 2 nights, and I'm not a fast reader, so the fact that I blew through it like that speaks volumes for me about how good the book was. It was very good. It's not one of my, it's not gonna be in my top 150 list. I think I mentioned that one of my preview videos, but that 150, all the ones on the 150 are really good too. It would be in my top 200, and I think it's still very good. It's a really good read. It's a good thriller. It's got a lot of good suspense. It reads real easy. Blake Crouch is a great writer. There might be something else from him that is on my 150 list, but I'm happy to talk about Dark Matter. And I think it's actually a good science fiction for folks who are maybe like, oh, I'm not much of a science fiction reader, but maybe I'll just read one thing. That's a good one if you don't think you're going to continue in science fiction. You just want a good kind of thriller read that's kind of science fiction-y. Dark Matter absolutely fits the bill for that. I was really pleasantly surprised with it. This next one I'm just going to read because I got a little wordy with it. In Jules Verne's Around the World in 80 Days, Phileas Fogg is a perfectionist, more concerned with his perfection than the amazing places he travels. Name a character that gave you perfectionist vibes. Know-it-all. Prideful vibes. If that doesn't resonate with you, describe in what ways you are a perfectionist when it comes to any of your bookish habits. Or it could even be a humble brag. So like, take this question and do whatever the heck you want to do with it. This is a tag. Have fun with it. I'm also going to read my answer on this one because I can never say the full name correctly. My first answer, I've got two people, but my primary answer is we're going to go to Russia. We've got Rodion Romanovich Raskolnikov, right? From Fyodor Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. So while Rodion is not a perfectionist, I would not say, within his split personalities, there is a side that is the egoist and very self-absorbed. The other character I'm going to go with just for fun is from Robert Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange Land, and I'm going to go with Jubal Harshaw. This was a book that was on my top 150 list before I reread it, and I just finished rereading it recently. I'll do a review on that pretty soon. And I don't like it anymore, and it came off of my 150. I really did not enjoy reading this book the second time through, but I read it all the way through because I'm not DNFing anything that I'm going to review now because I want to do like an accurate and objective review. And I just could not stand the second half of this book. The character of Jubal Harshaw is particularly annoying. This character is so clearly a mouthpiece for Heinlein and a lot of his views, which is fine. There's a lot of things that this character says that make a lot of sense and is said really, really well. But then there's just a lot of stuff that, like, and this may not be fair to say, but it feels like Heinlein is like this kind of creepy old man and wants to like kind of justify every lewd thought he had. And I'm all for sexual liberation and all that kind of stuff. So it's not me reacting to that. It's me reacting to like the character saying things like, well, I could be in the bed with this young woman who works with me, and like we all know like there's nothing going to happen there. So like there's nothing, you know, of course there's nothing wrong with that. We could do that. And it just really reeks of like misogyny and creepy old man stuff. And that stuff just really takes away, obviously, from the enjoyment of the book. So he's not going to be my main answer. We're going to stick with Russia, and we're going to move on to our next destination. We head now to Africa. What is your favorite book or a book that references Africa that you've liked or read? One of my favorite authors is Nnedi Okorafor, and it makes it really easy to come up with an answer for this question because I'm going to pick one of her books. I think I'm going to just go with Lagoon for this one because it's something I reread recently. Lagoon is a beautiful story. These three individuals come together on a beach while there is a first contact. An alien vessel falls into the lagoon in Bar Beach in Lagos in Nigeria. It's mystical, magical. It is science fiction, absolutely. It's an example of what Okorafor calls African futurism. And African futurism is interesting because it's really focused not on the West, but on specifically the Black diaspora, and specifically ignoring references to the West. And you really see that in this story, and there's really no need for the West in this story. I mean, you're gonna have a little bit of like, well, where is the, US intelligence services like swooping in on this? But at the same time, you really appreciate that that doesn't happen. Lagoon by Nnedi Okorafor, and I'm gonna leave that here as a recommendation for folks as well. This is a fun one that I can't wait to see the answers for. Judging by only the first 80 pages of the book, your favorite book or books that you've read, and then likewise, judging by just the last 80 pages of the book, your favorite book or books that you've read. Here comes some foreshadowing. Let's first start though with my favorite books by the first 80 pages. The first one I'm going to talk about is Hyperion. So I'm going to lean here to the side because I like this graphic that we've got going on here, this giant sandworm from Dune. And the Dune answer is actually not going to be Dune exactly. Anyway, So we're starting with Hyperion, written by Dan Simmons. This is an amazing science fiction novel, one of the best science fiction novels of all time. This is written in the mode of like the Canterbury Tales, where you're following a bunch of pilgrims. Well, we're following 7 pilgrims as they travel to Hyperion, and they're going to these time tombs. And we don't know exactly why, but it's broken into a bunch of different stories. We get a story that is kind of more horror. We get one that is more kind of cyberpunk. We get one that is more military sci-fi, and so on, which makes it really interesting. But the very beginning of this book, in that first 80 pages, is the priest's tale, and we're following Father Duray, and I forget the other priest now, who one of them's the pilgrim, one of them's telling this is part of the story. But anyway, we follow them, and there's just like this really crazy thing going on with these cruciforms on their chest, and it's very hard to kind of find out what exactly is going on, because we're really just kind of thrust into this story, but it's just haunting. And it's even the greatness of the other stories in the book, and they are great. After I've read this book, the priest's tale is something that, like, almost a year later, after the second time that I've read it, I am still haunted by that story. I don't mean haunted like I'm having nightmares, but it's like when I think about it, like it's like a little bit chilling. It's so good. It's so haunting. So if you like haunting stuff, highly recommend Hyperion. Next, I've got on this list Tiger, also known as The Star's My Destination. We're following Gully Foyle. Gully Foyle is this unlikable protagonist. He's on this ship. He's like a merchant marine or whatnot, and the ship is destroyed, and another ship, the Vorga, comes by, knows that he's got his distress beacon out, and totally ignores him and leaves him to die. Well, somehow he survives and makes it back, and he's hell-bent on revenge. And this whole story, it's like the Count of Monte Cristo in space, is his revenge tale, and vengeance just fuels him. He's a horrible protagonist, completely irredeemable, completely unlikable. The story is very likable, and it's a story that I recommend to a lot of people who want to look for like really interesting and unique science fiction. It's also a book that I believe William Gibson and other really famous science fiction authors name as their favorite science fiction book too, if that means anything to you. And then finally, I'm going to say Dicronauts, another book that I liked just based on the first 80 pages. And I love this book, as I did these other books throughout the whole book, but especially the first 80 pages. Dicronauts is great, and we learn about this crazy hyperboloid world, different than our world where we have 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time. The Dicronauts world is 2 dimensions of space and 2 dimensions of time. 2 dimensions of space, that's crazy. Well, if you've read Greg Egan, you know that you're in for kind of a wild ride when it comes to the mathematics, physics, and quantum physics of the worlds and the universes that he creates. And it's so exciting. The inhabitants of this world are these walkers and siders. So a walker is basically can move to the east and west, because this is 2-dimensional space. You can't rotate. It's impossible. So they can only see to the east, and then I forget if it's to the east or the west, but then they can also see the other direction by tilting their head back and kind of see in the other direction too. Now to the north or south, they can't, but they have these symbiotes that thread through and inhabit their skull called siders. And the siders can see to the north and south because they ping. They echolocate by the pinging, and they can kind of sense what's to the north and south, giving kind of almost a full range of sight or awareness. And this just creates a really interesting idea of how do people interact with each other, but also how do they interact with themselves or different parts of themselves. Siders and walkers have relationships among each other, even though they inhabit the same body and rely on each other symbiotically. It's one of the best symbiote science fiction stories you're ever going to read. But it's interesting, if you get 4 people in the room, it's really like 8 distinct personalities. Very wild story. I highly recommend it. My favorite books based on the last 80 pages, and I'm going to go really the spirit of how I asked this question, which was the first that comes to your mind, because I didn't sit and think about this one, even though I've been working on this tag for a while. But the first ones that came to mind were Children of Dune, Really great ending. This is one of the sequels to Dune. The sequel to Dune is Dune Messiah, and then Children of Dune is the sequel to that. Although there was a mini-series that was done on the books, and it went from Dune to Children of Dune, and Children of Dune kind of kept Children of Dune and Dune Messiah kind of mashed together, and I think it did a pretty good job of that. As many of you may know, the time this video is being made in 2021, in October, we have the new Dune, Denis Villeneuve movie coming out, so I'm excited to see that. So that's probably why that was fresh on my mind too. And then I want to take an opportunity to mention another book that's not science fiction, and this is An Innocent Man by John Grisham. I don't read a lot of John Grisham, and I don't read a lot of nonfiction stories. I used to read a lot of like history books and things like that, and I do enjoy them, and I do enjoy nonfiction. This was a really unique one for me to read, but I enjoyed it. It's about a man who's wrongly accused of a murder and goes to jail, and we get the Innocence Project involved. And again, this is based on a true story, so you're heavily, heavily invested. And the finale of this story in the last 80 pages is so riveting, and I absolutely love this book. Number 8, a book that you love that prominently features ethnic or local cuisine. And by local cuisine, I mean cuisine that is local to a place that is a place that you're not from. So this is a difficult one, so it doesn't, even if it doesn't prominently feature a food, think of a book that even just has a food cameo that is not like, hey, Johnny ate pizza, but something that stands out to you. I'm going back to the Nnedi Okorafor well. We're set in Nigeria. I'm going with Akeda Witch, and the local cuisine here that I'm speaking about is the tainted pepper soup. And this one is interesting because if it's prepared incorrectly, it could explode. As we travel around this world in 80 pages, it's always good to know where we're going and what to expect. Number 9, the last travel or other nonfiction book that you looked at or read featuring a city other than your own. And do you have a story to go along with the trip? Picture it. Berlin, 1999. Young Michael Everts on vacation by himself in this very fascinating city. I've actually been to Berlin a number of times. It's one of my favorite places to travel to, and I haven't been there in a long time, but at one point I've went every year for 5 years. And having gone in 1999, 2000, 2001, and so on, it was a time in the history of Berlin that the city was changing immensely from year to year. You know, there were places like in Potsdamer Platz where it was just a large field, and then the next year that I was there, it was like buildings everywhere and big, you know, facades with Arnold Schwarzenegger's next movie coming out placarded over it. And that's just one example. But the story going with Berlin, I did get a travel book. Now if I travel, I'm just going to go online. If I actually want to look and find out about a place, you're obviously going to go online and do that. I'm not going to pick up a travel book probably. But I did for this first trip that I went to Berlin. And this has nothing to do with that book now, but I did go to a club one night. I went out to a gay club, and I went to think it was called Die Bücher. And it was a really fun club. It was very poppy music and whatnot. And I got there, I must have been in a taxi or something, and we pulled up to the club, and the cab driver said to be careful getting out. And, you know, I could barely open the door, and I opened it a little too hard, and it hit this wall that we were parked next to. So the wall that I had opened the door and banged the door into was the Berlin Wall. And, you know, the Berlin Wall had been down for a long time, but pieces of it were all still up all over the city. And some of the pieces have been moved to different parks and things like that, and people would paint on them, and that was really cool. But this was wild because here I am going to this club, and I had to be careful opening the door because I banged it into the Berlin Wall. So that's my travel book, Berlin 1999 story. Haven't quite made it all the way around the world yet, so let's go down south. Give me a book, any book, preferably your favorite one set there, but any book that is set in or references Central or South America. I guess I'm not diversifying my authors very well because I'm going back to another author I've already used, and that's Frank Herbert. And I'm going to go with Green Brain. This isn't one of my favorite books, but I just want to make mention of it in this video because whenever you hear about Frank Herbert, you're always going to be hearing about Dune stuff, especially now. So I just want to highlight that he's written other things. So I'm going to go with Green Brain. This is set in the jungles of Brazil in the future, and humans have like eradicated all of the insects, which we can only imagine what the implications of that are, and like, you know, eradicating pollinators. So the Green Brain is this organism that sort of like fights back against the humans. There's deforestation themes in this and whatnot. So I'm going with Green Brain by Frank Herbert. Fit to be Read is a science fiction channel at its heart. So let's not just limit ourselves to Around the World in 80 pages. Give me a book that references your favorite world, your favorite universe, your favorite dimension. Have fun with this one. Have at it. Taking this literally, I am going to go with a favorite world, a favorite dimension, and a favorite universe. Favorite world, I'm going to go with Dune, the Sand Planet, Arrakis. Favorite universe, I'm going to go with Asimov's Foundation series. That's a no-brainer for me. And favorite dimension, I'm going to go with Cixin Liu's Death's End. And Death's End is the final book in the trilogy of the Remembrance of Earth's Past trilogy, which starts with the very popular The Three-Body Problem. This one I like to talk about a lot because The Three-Body Problem is a really good science fiction book. It's very unique and inventive. I know a lot of folks who think of Three-Body as one of their favorite science fiction books of all time. It's not one of my top favorites of all time. It's a good read. It has things I like about it and things I didn't really like about it, which I guess is any book that I read. But the great thing about Three-Body Problem is that it has two really magnificent, amazing 5-star sequels. It's followed by Dark Forest, which is really great. It might be the best of the series. We get to see 2-dimensional space, 4-dimensional space, I think 5-dimensional space if I'm remembering correctly. It will blow your mind. So favorite dimension, I'm absolutely going with Death's End. So we got Cixin Liu, Death's End, Frank Herbert in Dune, and Isaac Asimov, the Foundation series. Number 12, traveling the world can be exhausting. This calls for a good book in a great environment. Number 12, in Rita Goldman's Tales of a Female Nomad, Rita left an elegant life in LA to follow her dream of connecting with people and cultures all over the world. What is your dream read in any dream location, real or fictional, of your choosing? When I thought about what my answer to this was going to be, I forgot about the part of this where I said it could be fictional. Man, I could have had more fun with this, but I'm still happy with my decision. I'm landing on Playa del Sol in El Salvador and one of the little islands in the Pacific right off of it. And I'm going with The Count of Monte Cristo because I want to go with a book that I haven't read, because I reread a lot and I think that would still be a good thing, but this is like this question where like it's a dream read in a dream location. So I want it to be a book I haven't read. And that's a book that I think is like a no-brainer, surefire. I'm going to really love it. Could be wrong, but I think I will. And I know it's not science fiction either. So I'm going with The Count of Monte Cristo. And one of the trips that we had to El Salvador, we rented this beach house in this like area, you know, right on the coast, and it had a little boat. We took the boat out to this island. And because it's on an island and a lot of people don't have boats, there's nobody on this island. So it's this little island in the Pacific Ocean that you take the boat to. There's one old woman there and she has this little grill and she's grilling shrimp that she just caught and she's selling it for $1. And it's just beautiful. I would love to sit there, like put up a hammock, have my Count of Monte Cristo, lay back, have if it's in the morning, a cup of coffee. If it's later in the day, a glass of cold water in the sun. I know that's not really exciting. Or if it's like later, you know, maybe a nice glass of red wine. Maybe that sounds better. Or a cup of tea. I think that would be just like a great reading experience. Now that we've made it around the world and through all of our 80 pages, this is the point in the tag where we're going to do a couple of tag challenges. So please stick with me because I have a few of these here, and I'm going to tag a bunch of people because this is an original tag, and I think in original tags, you tag as many people as you want to tag. And these are all people that I really want to tag, and these are the people that I had mostly in mind when I put these questions together, because I want to know what have people read that references Africa or South America. It took me a while to think about even Green Brain because I can't think of a lot of things that I read that referenced those areas. So I am really excited to hear answers from anybody who does this tag, but specifically these people who I've been watching a lot of, just a lot of in general, but also some of these people that I'm tagging are people that just recently I've been watching a lot of and really catching up on their content. Tag challenge number 1. Tag a channel that has 80 or fewer subscribers, if you can. If you can't, then you must tag a channel with more than 80,000 subscribers. So the point of this is to really tag a smaller channel, because one of the first things that got me excited when I was doing BookTube, other than the reviews I was doing, was when somebody tagged me, and I was only a couple hundred subscribers at that point, and that was really fun. So I'd love to see this tag happen for somebody who has very, very few subscribers. 80 is a really low number, so that might be difficult. So if you can, see if you can find somebody who you like their content, what they're putting out, and you'd like to see them shoot up way past 80 subscribers. And if you can't, tag somebody with 80,000 or more subscribers. Have fun with that. Or do both. Those people will be tagged. And also, anybody that you mentioned BookTuber-wise in your video, consider them to be tagged as well. I think I said that already. My tag for this first challenge is going to be Jonathan with Words in Time. I just discovered his channel earlier today, and I saw that he did a Foundation and Empire review. And then I looked at his channel. There's one there for Hyperion. There's one for Flowers for Algernon. So he's reading all the same things that I like to read. So I'm absolutely going to be keeping an eye on that channel. And I'm going to go ahead and tag somebody with over 80,000. I'm going to tag Murphy Napier. I watch quite a few of her things, and I'm almost sort of like was beat over the head into doing so because I don't do a lot of Goodreads, but I've started getting on there. But every time I look at something on Goodreads, the first one that comes up as far as a review for a book I've looked up has been Murphy Napier. And I know she's a very popular YouTuber. I think she just announced that she made her 300,000th subscriber. So congratulations, Murphy. I hope you'll do this tag. I think it would really be fun to see how you answer this. I think you're so, I don't want to say well-read because it sounds like a gatekeeper term, but you're obviously very well-read. You've read a lot of things, and I think you could have you could bring a lot to the table in this tag, so I hope you'll consider doing it. Tag challenge number 2. Tag a channel you like that has reviewed any of Jules Verne's novels or any of the novels that you answered with in your tag. So you may not have a Jules Verne novel one off the top of your head, but look at the books that you mentioned in this tag and see who you follow or you're subscribed to that you really like that has done a review of one of those books. Tag that person. I'm gonna tag 3 really quick here because they've reviewed Jules Verne's books. Luminous Libro, Catchy Tales, and Charlie Cheer. So those are my 3 for that one. Tag challenge number 3. Tag the 8 channels you watched the most in the last 80 days. If you don't want to tag 8 and you're like done with this tag, just tag one more person, I guess. But I think, you know, we're having fun here. Tag 8 channels if you can. I'm going to tag the BookTube goddess. This is somebody who I've been following for a long time since I've been booktubing. This is somebody who has been really helpful to me that I've been able to email with when I've had questions about certain things or wanted to bounce ideas off of, and she's always kind of been there for me with quick responses, and I'm really grateful and have made a friend, and I'm really appreciative of that. Goddess, I'd love to see your tag on this. I bet yours is going to be really exciting, and I want to see the way you edit it too. So if you do this, I want to issue an additional challenge to like really edit the hell out of it and make it like a wild, crazy video. Feel free to like grab any of my graphics or anything too if you want to. Jeremy Fee, I'm going to say kind of the same thing in regards to this is somebody who's actually been there for me a lot when I've reached out with questions or asking for guidance or advice. I'm somebody who loves to get guidance and advice, and I listen to it, and even if I don't use it, it's been valuable to me. Jeremy also recently sent me a bunch of bookmarks because in one of my tags he heard me talking about I was using like a scrap from a ice cream bar that one of the kids left as trash because I didn't have a bookmark handy, and I just grabbed that. Nerdy Narrative, She reviews a lot of stuff that I don't necessarily read, which is what I like. I really love looking at channels like that. And especially she also does manga and comics, which I follow a couple other channels that do that too. I don't read that at all, but I love seeing those types of reviews because again, it's something that's kind of new to me. Beautifully Bookish Bethany. I've really been watching her channel a lot in the last few months, and her channel's always been really good, but like she's really like stepped up her game recently. Is putting out a lot more stuff, doing a lot of live streams, and it's been great because like when I'm jumping onto YouTube on those few breaks in the day that I have to look at stuff, it's usually in sync with when she's doing a live stream. So I really want to tag her on this because I've been seeing her everywhere. Bookish Realm. This is somebody who is on some of those live streams that I've seen Bethany do, but on other live streams as well. She is a librarian. I have a soft spot in my heart for librarians because I'm always trying to get my kids to read, and I always like really lean on the librarians and get great recommendations and guidance from them. So I want to tag Bookish Realm, Ashley. Books with Brittany. This is a channel I like to watch a lot. I discovered her when she was like kind of reading some Dune stuff, and I was excited about that, and then she read Hyperion. She's reading a lot of fantasy and stuff too, and I do watch fantasy channels also, but it was kind of the Dune stuff that initially got me interested in her channel, and she's got a really great voice in BookTube, and I like the way that she does her videos. Library of Alexandria. I think a lot of people know this BookTuber, Alan. Alan just shot up the charts for me in terms of me watching his stuff. I was aware of him and watched some of his stuff, but it's fantasy, and I do watch fantasy channels, but I watch it in small doses. So watching him, and I was already watching a lot of other fantasy channels when I saw his stuff. So I saw he was doing some Jeopardy stuff, and I don't watch like those videos as much, even though I think they're really creative and really well done. But the last live stream I saw him on, he was just like giving a master class in like humanities and I don't know how we conduct ourselves as human beings, and I was listening to the sermon, and it was really great. So I want to tag Alan on this, and this is somebody else who I know is going to have like really great answers to this. He's a teacher, and I think from that perspective, there's going to be some good answers. I could have articulated that better, but we're going to leave it at that. Onyx Pages. She has this great Written with Purpose series. It's an author series that she does. I highly recommend everybody check that out, and it really focuses on authors that are doing work in like Afrofuturism and African futurism. There is a distinction there, and she released them this year in like a bingeable format, which is really excellent because I can get through like 2 or 3 of them while I'm doing stuff, and I'm not watching so much as I am listening, but then when I can, I watch. But those are really great. One of the best interviewers I've seen on BookTube, and I think you'll think so too if you watch hers. I think that's 8. I've got my list right here. Yeah, we've got Onyx and Jerry, I'm sorry, I think how she pronounces her name. The last thing I'm gonna leave you with, anyone who comments on this tag and completes the tag before New Year's, the end of this year, New Year's 2022, you're gonna be entered in a hat, and I'll pick the names out. You're gonna be entered to win a fit t-shirt, like kind of the ones that I'm wearing. I've got these from the gym, and they're kind of cool if you like that kind of thing. And a $30 Amazon gift card. So if you need any more encouragement to do this tag and participate in the comments, there you go. Free t-shirt and Amazon gift card. Thank you for watching today. I'm Michael Leverts. This is Fit to be read. Please like, please subscribe, please click the notification bell, and YouTube will let you know every Thursday at 1 o'clock when I release new content. Thank you.